Hey everybody, today we're talking about Blue Beetle Rebirth, Volume 2. This is Hard Choices. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about Blue Beetle Rebirth. This is Volume 2. This is stuff I've never read before, so we're going to dive right into it. I was talking about when we were doing the video for Volume 1, that review, how I kind of picked it up and left off. I definitely don't feel like I read this whole thing in singles when I was, at least when I was buying them digitally. I may have read through issue number 6, but this collects number 6 through 12, so 7 issues here. It's written by Keith Giffen. J.M. DeMatteis comes in to help out for most of the issues, and it is drawn, all of it is drawn by Scott Kolins. So I'm still standing by my comments with Scott Collins' art here. I neither love nor hate it. I think my biggest gripe is the changes he did to Jaime's design, where the eyebrows look more raised and stuff like that. The design of the mask just doesn't really work for me. I really like the old design, but I guess you could call me the first Jaime Reyes purist, right? My biggest complaint with Volume 1 is that it didn't really feel like a story. It was a couple of issues here, a couple of issues there, and then it ended with number 5 with this green guy, Mordecai, being a huge threat and on this giant cliffhanger. This guy right here. Well, we kind of resolved Mordecai here in the first issue, number 6, which is like, why wasn't this in the first volume collected? Because 6 through 12 is one complete story all the way through, no doubt about it. So if it was a 12-issue arc, like why didn't we do it 6 and 6? I know there was a Rebirth issue per se in that book, but I don't know, it just felt like maybe that was a better cliffhanger at the end of number 5 than what they did at the end of number 6. Although number 6 ends pretty cool with Blue Beetle versus Dr. Fate. That's interesting. But yeah, this is a true continuation from Volume 1. So if you read Volume 1 at some point in time and you're like, should I read Volume 2? I think you should. There's definitely more to enjoy here, I think, because we actually have a story that's moving along as opposed to some weird one-and-dones that kind of do and tie into each other and kind of don't. In that first volume, this one is more comic storytelling like you're used to these days, where everything moves into another issue, and I think that's fine. To me, if you're going to do a one-and-dones, then it needs to resolve and wrap up, whereas there were things in that first volume that never did, or it didn't feel like they were going to resolve, or it just felt like, wait, where are we going? So I don't know if, did J.M. DeMatteis do the first one? He's not on the list, so probably not. Maybe J.M. DeMatteis coming in and helping out with the writing. He's credited as, gosh, is it a script? Story. Well, no, Keith Giffen, Scott Kolins as story, and Keith Giffen as script in the first couple issues, and then DeMatteis comes in towards the end of this book, and they're just credited as writers. So maybe they're co-writers. So maybe DeMatteis kind of smoothed out all the rough edges that I was feeling in Volume 1 here in Volume 2 and moved along that. As for the story, well, where does it go with Mordecai? Well, you have more of the Scarab being magic in this iteration. It's never really talked about with the Reach or anything like that. Like, that's totally out the window from the original 36-issue run into the new 52 run. Now we're back to Scarab is magic, a la Dan Garrett. And he's mentioned once, but never really explained why they want it to be magic. And so with that, you have Arion of Atlantis come in and hijack the Scarab. And when he does, he becomes this big black guy, this shadow guy right here. And I feel like these kind of designs, these negative designs, are kind of lazy because there's nothing for the artist to do. And so it's probably really simple for Scott Kolins to draw, and it's just kind of bleh. And then when you get to the variant covers at the back, you have Tyler Kirkham trying to do the stab at this guy that's just made of black energy, and it looks completely different because there's no real design to it. So that's my one gripe. But other than that, you know, it's kind of interesting. What's also weird here too is you have a lot more. You bring in characters with OMAC, the One Machine Attack Corps, or One Machine Attack Corps, as it's known here in this volume. And apparently, this kid goes to Jaime's school, but it was never set up before. You also have Dr. Fate coming in with the helmet of Naboo, and Kent Nelson is Dr. Fate, and he's somehow being like held hostage in the Tower of Fate. That's never really touched on or explained. Is that in a different DC book at this time? I don't remember if it was or was not. And he's like, I'm free. And then a couple issues later, you have what essentially this girl Terry, who has speed superpowers, go and take the helmet of Fate back to the Tower of Fate and put it on Kent Nelson's unconscious body, therefore, I guess, imprisoning him again inside the Dr. Fate helmet. So that is weird as hell. Like, that's kind of kooky, I guess. And then when it all resolves, you have Ladama setting up some more stuff, and then a check-in with Batman, who's come to check out Jaime Reyes in an issue that could have been more fun had they talked more, but instead you just have Batman kind of being a spooky creep and watching Jaime from afar, and then coming up to him at the end being like, "You're okay, kid," and then gets the hell out of there. I think that was lackluster. I much prefer the Blue Beetle issue number 7 from the original run. How I survived my Infinite Crisis. That was a lot more fun than how Batman showed up in here. So yeah, I think if you started this one and were like, I want to see where this goes, is this worth getting? I think so. I enjoyed reading this a lot more than I enjoyed reading the first one. That's for darn sure. But I think you could stop there, and we'll talk about the third volume in our next review video. So stay tuned for that here on the channel, and we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.